This is the Plan Commission, Port City of Port Washington for September 15th, 2022. Our mayor is going to be late, so I'm Alderman Newmeyer. I'm chairing. Bear with me. Item 1, roll call. Everybody is here, including our new member, who could introduce himself.
Chad Mock.
Welcome, Chad. The mayor is in traffic somewhere, and so is Alderman Ehrlich, so we will persevere here to move along. Item 2, approval of minutes of previous meeting. Has everybody had a chance to read them?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion? None being heard, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Item 3, public comments and appearances. Your comments are always welcome. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you need more time, please contact the mayor and ask that your topic be placed on a Plan Commission agenda. And as always with council and with any committees, we welcome your comments. So if you would like to speak on something, please step up to the podium, state your name and address, and tell us what you think. Anybody interested in public comments? Going twice? Public comments? Going 3 times? We're closed. Okay, item 4 is a minor review. Exterior color change for Lighthouse Condominium Building at 415 North Lake Street. Lighthouse Condominium Association, Hog Miller Architects are the applicants. Bob?
Thank you, Alderman Newmeyer. This is a minor review. The Lighthouse Condominium and the association are planning to change the entirety of the exterior of the Lighthouse Condominium, notably by just changing the existing color palette to a blue and gray color palette on the ephes. Those items that are in blue, essentially the mansard parapet and the balconies and window frames are remaining the same. Staff recommends approval. There isn't too much else to say, but the project architect is here.
Step up to the mic, sir. Please.
Do you have any questions?
Anybody in the committee have any questions of the gentleman?
I don't have any. I think it's nice. I think it's a good.
And I'm sorry, when's the work going to take place?
I don't have.
This year yet or next year?
Well, the first thing they have to do is they're going to have to do some replacement of the caulk, and I do not know when they're going to be able to get that done. I know that they've already purchased the materials. They're eager to get it done. I don't know whether or not it's going to get done this year.
Okay. I seem to recall the last time they painted it, they needed to do some of the work in Lake Street. I can't, but do you have any idea? Well, any
You
of
mean
the,
with a lift?
yeah, like the lift will be in the street, or is it?
We were only hired to help them consult on the color change.
Okay.
Means and methods, we really don't have anything.
You haven't talked about that. Okay. All right. We are going to be adding on to the water filtration plant next spring.
So they may want to coordinate.
Could get tight on Lake Street.
Okay.
So anyhow, just keep that in mind. If you could bring that back to your,
I will.
that'd be great.
Yep.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Any other commissioners have any questions? Okay. We want a motion on that, Bob?
We do.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? None being heard, all in favor? Aye. No nays, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 5 will be minor review, new home interior retail use, 1040 South Spring Street. Kristen Chapman and Jacob Chapman are the applicants. Bob?
Thank you, Alderman. The applicants, they're the owners of the subject property, and Ms. Chapman is planning to move her business, which is a home interiors retail use, into the currently, I think it's currently vacant space, or is the woodworking shop still?
They are still
Okay. It is the space that currently houses the woodworking shop. And the subject site, it's zoned B2. The proposed retail use is a permitted use by right, subject to Plan Commission approval. At this time, outside of signage, proposed signage, there's no planned changes to the exterior and no plans to change to the site. Staff recommends approval, just with the following condition as they are the owners and just the removal of the unused sign pole on the property. That's the only condition or side item. Yes, you can.
Can you come up to the podium, please, and introduce yourself?
I'm Kristen Chapman, owner of Revival Interiors. Oh, it's not on. Now it is.
The red light's on, now you're on.
Okay. As for the light post out front, it does have electrical ran to it, and we have had some bids placed on putting a lighted sign out front. We have just not decided exactly which one we would like to go with. So if it would help, we would be willing to paint the post at the moment until we have decided, but we would like to keep the light post for.
The signpost, okay. Because currently, as of a few years ago, pole signs are no longer a permitted sign type.
Oh, okay. I don't think we knew that.
Okay,
So then we would remove it.
okay.
All right. Any of the commissioners have any questions of the applicant?
Bob, in requesting the removal of the sign pole, I think the owner brings up a good point. If there is electrical there, full removal, in a way, presumes vacating all of that, including the power. And it would seem if they would want to have signage in the future, that is far better to at least have some part there for that. Are there some latitude we can give them for that?
There is latitude as far as like just the pole itself.
Just
and
like
if-
cutting it down to like
Yeah,
a foot above grade?
yeah, and then just putting a, monument or a, two-pole sign that's currently permitted in that location.
Right, and I guess part of it is just thinking like, well, for the case of the family pharmacy on the north side of town, that had been a pole sign.
Correct,
They reused that pole sign,
correct. as a
dressed
monu-
up the bottom to make it not look like a pole sign.
Correct, it's a monument sign, no.
And now it is a monument sign. So with that, I almost feel like the recommendation to remove that entire pole may not be necessary until the owner does determine which way to go with their signage. And then they can use that in the same fashion that the pharmacy did.
Yeah, I mean, if the commission wants to go there, that's perfectly acceptable.
All right?
What did you have in mind, Kyle? As far as like leaving the entire post there? Because the post is,
Right. I think if the
tall.
owner is willing to paint it and just clean it up, I'm fine with that, with the understanding that there is the intent to have signage there.
Bob, how tall can a monument sign be?
12 feet tall.
Okay.
measured from the base or from the grade, do you know? Sorry.
Generally from the base of the sign to the top.
Okay. Right.
Do you know when you were thinking of coming to a decision on the sign?
We did get 2 quotes, so we were hoping for next year, probably springtime, on doing something with the sign.
What type of time frame might you suggest that you would make a decision? So if this body were to have a time limit on it, as far as when it would be converted to a monument sign, what do you think would be reasonable?
I think by spring, we could have it done.
Okay.
And just a note, I mean, signs aren't they're approved in-house by staff here. So it's just a matter of just working with me in-house,
Okay,
using the existing sign regulations that are there.
sure.
So this had come up several years ago when there was a change in ownership. And so the sign was supposed to come down a long time ago, and
Sure.
it just, nothing's happened, so that's why I think we need to, set some parameters around it. So would 9 months be reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. Does that sound? Yeah.
And in the time frame now, would you like us to paint it black and leave it as is?
I don't know that it needs to be, I don't know. Doesn't matter to me. If in 9 months, they'll make a decision to either completely remove it or install a monument over it. And a monument's allowed there, Bob? Okay. Is that other, this sign's not there anymore, is it? The one that's in the, there
No.
was like several signs on it
No.
previously, and that's, okay, all right.
Any other questions or concerns? I just have one. Are you going to do anything with the planter? Is that going to be eventually worked on a little bit?
My husband's going to be removing them next week.
Okay, all right, thank you, just quite curious. So Bob, how do we want to word that as far as just add the addition of a 9-month period? Okay. Anybody want to make that motion?
Sure, I'll move to approve with the contingency that the pole be either converted into a compliant sign or removed within 9 months.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second?
Any further discussion on the motion? None being heard, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries, thank you. We're now on to item 6, special exception. Request to construct an outdoor deck in the front building setback area at 605 West Grand Avenue, Big D, Little D LLC. Gopher One applicants. Bob?
Thank you, Alderman Newmeyer. This is a special exception request to construct a deck in the front setback. The applicants are in the process, they'll be repairing the steps to the Gopher One and also the concrete slabs leading to the upstairs apartment. And the request is they wish to add a deck between the two entrances. The issue is with the building, and a number of them on this block and the next block to the east, a number of the buildings, or if not nearly all of them in those 2 blocks, are in the setback. And so in order to construct the deck, there'll be a need for a special exception to allow for that construction into the setback. I think that is the issue there. The applicants or the contractor, I believe, is here to answer any questions. Staff does recommend approval, subject to, if the deck is going to be used for, outdoor drinking by patrons. The existing conditional use grant that was given for the tables and chairs on the west side will just need to be amended to accommodate any bar patrons drinking and or eating on the Grand Avenue side.
Any commissioners have any thoughts?
As I understand it, with the documents provided, this is going right up to the sidewalk, no further, correct?
Going up, the deck is going up to the sidewalk. There was some, just looking closer at one of the steps for leading into the bar. Look, it appears it'll be probably about 5 to 6 inches into the right-of-way line, but the deck itself is up to the sidewalk.
Does that make us still,
I'm sorry, let me correct that. It's a little bit behind the sidewalk, so not exactly up to the sidewalk line, which is essentially the property line.
So are the stairs, the existing stairs, are they going to go out further than the existing stairs?
please step up to the podium and give us your name and continue.
My name is Maurice LaPlante. I'm the owner of M. LaPlante Contractors. The steps should land, the way we have it laid out, they should land right by the sidewalk. If they would go over, it would be only be a very little bit just to make them to code, because you have to have the code compliant stairs. And right now, with the way it is and with the old steps, we're gonna try and keep it to where I can build it to code, but I might have to go over just a little bit so I can stay within the city code of building the stairs.
Does the owner know that if they want to put tables out there for eating and drinking, that they would have to come back for what Bob said is a conditional use?
That was communicated during the application process.
So the only thing I would be careful is that your handrail's got to extend 12 inches past the stairs
Yes.
as well. I'll move approval.
We have a motion, we have a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay,
Talking to the Public Works Director and City Attorney, if there is an encroachment even of 5-6 inches, the City Attorney would like to see a license agreement to approve that encroachment.
Yeah, and I guess I'd point out, so that the right, so that's if it's in the right of way. The right of way line is behind the sidewalk, correct? I guess I'm asking you. The right of way line is behind the sidewalk. It's not on the back edge of the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
I'm going off of, just the survey itself, so it would probably go 5, by my count, about 5-6 inches north of the property line, so the right-of-way line.
I guess I'm a little concerned, and if the step goes into the sidewalk, people walking down the sidewalk could trip on it. And I'm a little concerned about even a few inches going into the sidewalk. Is there any way to pull back the deck so that it's,
Well, right now, what I'm doing, and I don't know if you guys have the pictures, the stairs that are there, I'm gonna try and rebuild them exactly where they lay now. But I don't think that the stairs that are there now are actually going to be in city code now. That's kind of why I'm saying if I need that extra inch or two just to get them to where they're supposed to be. But I'm going to do my best to keep them exactly where they're at, so I'm not encroaching over the sidewalk or doing anything like that.
just a clarification from our architects, this isn't the city code for steps, the code for steps is, it's building code.
Well, yes, I'm sorry, the building.
Yeah.
for stairs.
Yeah, the building code.
Yeah,
So-
it's not like the city of Port Washington's creating a,
No.
yeah. Okay.
But to Mike's point, the handrail has to extend past the last tread by
yeah.
12 inches to comply with ADA. So there's already an extension from the face of the nosing of that first tread that goes up.
Yeah.
So that really, all of that has to start 12 inches back from the sidewalk edge,
Yeah,
if we do not want anything to extend it.
right.
I think that's an issue. We have some other establishments south of here where we've encroached on the sidewalk, and I've gotten concerns from constituents about getting around. You've got a lot more room to deal with here, but walkers, but people with yeah, wheelchairs or other devices they need to get around, I'm a little concerned going into the right of way, especially with the handrail going out there. I don't mean to make your life difficult, but we have to sort of, I don't want to say cater, but I think we have to make amends for people who need that special needs to get around.
No, man, I see what you're saying, but if you look where the stairs are, do they have this picture?
Yeah, it's up on the screen.
Okay, if they look where the stairs are now and the width of the sidewalk that's there, even if I would have to go a little bit over, it's not going to be hindering a wheelchair, a walker, or anybody else who would be walking past there, especially with how wide that's a wider sidewalk there than is.
Bob, do we know the width of that sidewalk in that area? I know it's wider. 10.5. Is it 10, is it that wide? Okay.
That's what it says.
Yeah, there's plenty of room, I guess. And maybe there's other examples of the city of things protruding into the sidewalk, but I guess, say someone is walking or running at night, if they didn't see the railing coming out, I don't know.
The other thing I could do, I mean, to make the stairs to building code and to still, I could bring the deck back in a little bit. So that way I would have enough room for the railing, enough room for the deck, and then I wouldn't be encroaching over the sidewalk, which that would not be a problem to do at all. You know, I could bring the deck in on both the stairs in and then still leave the deck out in the middle where they were talking. That way I could keep the stairs to building code. I wouldn't be encroaching over the sidewalk and my railing could land where my railing needs to land.
Is the floor elevation for both of those entries at the same, that's all level?
They will be by the time I'm done with them.
Okay. So, and I guess, so here's another option because that is sloping up to the west. And your drawing indicates this, that, you know, the steps for the door for the tavern, we would require more steps there because it is a higher elevation change than for the residents. So as an alternative, is it, I don't think it's required, Bob, by ordinance that they both have separate sets of stairs. They have a co-joined deck and separate sets of stairs.
It's not a zoning
Okay,
requirement.
so could you, if the stairs for the tavern were to move more towards the center of that deck and, or even more to the west, because as you're indicating here, there's only one riser, maybe it's a little bit wider. That way we kind of get out of the need of, we're only having to go up, you know,
Right.
2 risers, the extension for the handrail can be accommodated there. Maybe that's a wider set of stairs. And then everything to the east, you could probably bring that deck out wider
Right.
and take that out to the sidewalk.
Okay. It's definitely something that I can look into and
Just trying to work through all of the logistics
Right.
of dealing with a nagging handrail extension.
And if they don't, I mean, the other thing that I could do, if they don't need 2 sets of stairs for the entrances, I could just drop one set of stairs going around, you know, where make it to where your gas is still, you can get to it, which I've done before with trap doors and everything else, and I can just put a set of stairs going.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, the further west you have those steps to go on that deck.
And then I could just have one set of stairs, that deck will then lead to the apartment. The only thing that I was trying to do was I was gonna have a railing between the apartment door and the tavern door.
yeah, okay.
So that when people were coming home at night to the apartment, they weren't mingling with the people who might be standing outside from the tavern. I just was trying to
Yep.
build some sort of a segue or whatever you would like to call it.
It would seem if you made it wide enough, you know, you have it at, I don't know, 4 feet, maybe? 48 inches, it looks like, roughly. Maybe it's 6 or something. It just gives it a little bit more beam to be able to have both occupancies get up and in. And I think too, by bringing that deck out towards the sidewalk more, if you do have tables out there, that allows for a little bit more traffic along the buildings, between the tables and the building.
Sure. Sure.
When I think then the stairs become kind of your natural separator as well. You
Yeah.
know, if you move them over far enough, then it kind of becomes, maybe it's only a small portion of deck on the one side by the apartments, and then your stairs, and then the rest of it is for the tavern.
The other thing that we could do is if I put the steps all the way to the west to where my stairs are actually coming up that way. Yeah. I could then put a gate in between that door
Sure.
to where the patrons would have to use the gate to get in, and you would still have the separation between dwelling and business.
Just procedure-wise, there's a motion on the floor right now?
There is.
So, just the parliamentarian part of me is losing it right now. We're
So,
way off of your motion.
so parliamentary wise, can I withdraw my
Was there a second?
motion? There was. Then make.
Then we have to vote and kill
Okay.
it and then make a new motion. Sorry. Paul.
Okay, we're going to have to vote on the motion. All in favor? None being heard, all opposed? Nay. The motion does not carry. We will go back to discussion.
So your drawing, actually, the one where it showed kind of an elevation, it showed it where it was only going up to the door, it wasn't going further to the west.
The original drawing was between just the two doors. It went from one side of the door to the other side of the door. That was with one set of steps leading into the tavern, one set of steps leading into the apartment, with the 4-foot deck and the railing separating the dwelling from the tavern, which is why I was saying if me encroaching over the sidewalk is an issue, just on the tavern stairs, because I could bring that deck part back, still keep the wide deck in the middle, but just bring the deck part back by the tavern so I'm not going over the sidewalk there. But then we got into moving the stairs to the other side and everything else, which is also a great idea that I can do with then either putting up a gate between the two, which then, like you said, would have the more room if they're allowed the tables and everything else, and I can just make it one set of stairs coming off the west, walking up and in, and then either a gate to separate the dwelling from the tavern, or unless Dave and Donna aren't concerned with a gate separating the two, we could just leave it open.
Yeah, or the other option would be to go just directly to the west, go down the one stair to directly to the west of apartments, then you can still put the railing separation between, just scooch the tavern stairs over.
Right.
I'd be okay with either of those.
Either one I can build.
No,
No, I know.
Right,
I
but-
appreciate it, but we're not supposed to design it for him. So,
assisting him in that, but I think we are voting to give the special exception for the encroachment, correct? And any kind of the details like that, if we just add to it that no part of the deck would extend into the sidewalk, all of that would be handled in the permitting process, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That sounds like a motion.
Do we have a motion?
I'll second it.
you first have to have the motion.
Right. Commissioner Knoll.
Yeah, I would move to allow the special exception for the deck to extend into the setback area with the condition that no part of the deck extends over into the sidewalk.
All right, we have a motion?
I'll second that.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? None being heard? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No nays. The motion carries. I now relinquish the chairmanship to our esteemed mayor.
Well, you were smoking there. I mean, good luck with your business and thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience with me. Port Washington #1 doubles team played very long into their match, so I did set a land speed record to get here from Hartford. Okay, so item number 7, and thank you, Alderman Newmeyer, for covering for me. Item special exemption request to widen a driveway 10 feet into the front setback, 1712 Galena Drive. Lisa and Ryan Smith are the applicants. The staff recommendation is based upon the criteria to suggest to approve the driveway expansion. So if you guys would like to step to the microphone, we would like the young man to be introduced because, you know, part of the cool part of citizenship is he should speak into the microphone at least one time. Oh, all right. We finally found somebody.
Titus.
Titus. Wow. That's an incredibly strong name.
I'm a strong boy, right?
He's not going to let go. Well, he's welcome to stay there. Titus, it's nice to meet you. Welcome to the City Council chambers. Okay, Bob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a request to expand a driveway 10 feet into the front setback. Current requirements for driveway state that the driveway should just go straight in the shortest path possible to the garage door with allowances on, I think, 2 feet on either side of the garage sides. The applicants are requesting that 10-foot side addition, and they are requesting the special exception to be granted to them to do so. As you stated, the staff request is based on the current language of the special exception code. Staff's recommending approval. And I know the applicants are here, and I do know he has some slides that he would want to show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can go to that now if you'd like.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, so I wanted to just put together something to show, I guess, a little bit better pictures and representation of what's going on, what I'm asking for, and what's been considered. So if you can go to the first slide here.
All right. It's not moving. Hold on. There we go.
All right, so a lot of pictures on there, but what I did here is took a picture from the stop sign. So this is the stop sign at the corner of Greystone and Galena. My property, so the bottom picture is probably the best. And I thought this picture was representative of that with the driveway, even with the car parked there, you're not gonna have an obstruction of view, nothing like that. My goal is to get cars taken off the street. You can also see from the picture, it's already been excavated and gravel poured and compacted. So I'm kind of in a spot here where it's it's already halfway done. So you can go to the next one. So I went through the special exceptions, had a couple meetings with Bob, came up here and went through and to my interpretation of it, you know, special exceptions can be granted, you know, no noise, dust, appearance, not a nuisance, no adverse effects on property values or any of the surrounding, you know, people. I think we meet all that with this. We've spoken with all the neighbors around us and even, you know, everybody that got a letter and just see if there's any issues. So I think
Just to interject, I did receive one email that was from a neighbor in support of the project.
Good. You go to the next one. So here I went around the neighborhood. So these are all within my neighborhood. 7+ homes that were 2-car garages. That's not counting 3-car garages that have identical to what I'm looking to do. So I think it fits within the neighborhood. It's not going to look out of place or anything like that. More examples. You can't really see the map, but that's a map of the houses that I, got support of verbally, just, as they're passing by, looking at projects. We've been doing extensive home renovations this year, so this is kind of the last one to button it up. I did put up there that first bullet. You'll see them. Some of these, they did a sidewalk to go up to the side entry door of the garage. If that makes a difference, I'm willing to add that to the scope of our project. I just didn't because we don't use that door very often. So, you can go to the next one. I put in here safety. I think this is pretty indicative of what our street usually looks like. Cars parked all up and down it, and us being on the corner. We've had 3 cars totaled on that corner since we moved in 2015. So in 7 years, 3 cars have been totaled because they park on the street and people fly up and down the road. So I don't want my cars, or when we have family members on the street. My truck was one of those vehicles. So someone hit the side of my truck and left, and they hit right on the door in the cab, and that was kind of it for the truck. So I'm very opposed to parking on the street, whether it's winter or summer, whatever. And then, so this is just showing that, we've done a lot of work outside. I've been trying to support local businesses. If you saw that first picture that was probably on your handout, there's tons of trees we've been removing and trying to open up the area and make it look a little more appealing. We are the first house on the corner as you come into the neighborhood, so we're trying to create nice curb appeal. And I think that's my last slide. Oh, yeah, options 1, 2, and 3, just kind of, I mentioned, had the first one of leaving it as is, and number 2, adding the walkway to the side, and a backup for number 3 if no one likes number 1 and 2.
Oh, we appreciate the PowerPoint. So with that, I mean, we have a staff recommendation. Is there a motion or questions or concerns for the applicant?
I would just like to express absolute appreciation for all of the time you put in to that presentation and doing your homework. And that is what I would expect, or not expect, but hope everyone to provide for every piece of consideration that we have on our agenda. So thank you very much. That was very well done.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Titus? Titus, can you walk up that little ramp and come up here by me real quick? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Titus, come here. No, this guy. One more.
I'm not
see
the
this?
mayor.
Okay, so I need you to say motion passes and then bang that.
Motion passes.
Well done. See you, buddy. All right. Good luck with your little brother or sister there. Okay, then the next item is item agenda number 8, discussion item, downtown and lakefront plan, downtown building heights. Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let me just get to the presentation here. So what I want to do. So we've had the last 2 meetings just going through just the issues that we've had with downtown Heights and downtown examples and how it can fit into any possible downtown plan recommendation or just even general language. And just to review, hold on here. There we go. And so we just started off with just taking the downtown plan. This is all in the context of the downtown plan. This is going to be used for setting up an eventual new zoning code and new zoning code language. That's my assumption. And so we try to set that table with downtown plan language. And, part of the downtown plan, one of the objectives is to possibly look at building heights and plan language options, just given some of the issues last few years regarding new developments and special exceptions, particularly with rooftop items, or the catchphrase that's been kind of attached to that is kind of the doinks on top of the buildings. We reviewed current heights of buildings over 35 feet downtown, and we looked at, there's a number of them, particularly along Franklin and a little bit on the northeast. And then we just kind of looked at various other cities, various Lake Michigan cities in both here and Michigan. And, we looked at, there was just kind of a general pattern emerging where we have a downtown Main Street, we have a marina district, and just looking at the heights of these. And then what we did was I was kind of attracted to both South Haven and Charlevoix. I think those were the pertinent apples and apples comparisons with Port Washington. And so, in my write-up on your summary, I just kind of provided just some example plan language that I took based on the last two conversations we've had at meetings and put that kind of into, some type of plan language option. And so what I'm asking tonight is, I have really just two questions. Is the language I have in the context of those 4 bullet points, seem appropriate or track with what we've been discussing and something that you would, expect or liken to see in an eventual downtown plan document? And if not, am I missing anything? But I do recall the idea of kind of tagging some type of height and design requirements to a particular district with those previous examples where in the blue in Port's case, we have a marina district. And then we kind of have that historic Main Street district between Harborview and Wisconsin. And then, Grand Avenue is probably going to have its own corridor language. And so again, based on our discussions, is this something that you would generally agree with or track with? Or is there anything that should be, you want to add or take out? And that's pretty much my question for you all tonight.
I'll start. So, Bob, I appreciate this. I do think that in future planning for the city of Port Washington, what's going to be critical is that we do have phases of elevation allowances as we head west out of the historic downtown, as we move, especially, past, I'm zerking out here. No, Milwaukee Street here. So we move west of Milwaukee Street, height variances, et cetera. I mean, I do like how you have that kind of staged. I do think that we have to do everything we can within zoning and our power in the downtown plan to maintain the current downtown levels, views, sites, honor those historic buildings, not have them cast in the shadows of anything. But as we move west, we do have, properties that are tired and the opportunity to kind of get some density into the downtown area. We've talked about and we've heard, ideas for workforce housing. I think we're going to see some things in the future here. And I do think that 4 stories, kind of height limitations to the west there is going to be important for us to have that option. But as we get to the downtown and down to the marina, again, that should just be, in my perception and traveling around, it should be tiered so that the further west away you are, it's okay to have that height, but somebody should not be able to come along, drop a 6-story building in downtown Port Washington and completely change the facade. So the rules of cities like Madison and Washington, D.C., where you can't exceed the heights of the Capitol and other things, I think we have that opportunity now to set that standard for the next century. So that's just my opinion, but I think that's going to be pretty important, and that's what I hear a lot when I'm at the Piggly Wiggly. Other comments? Mike?
So
Mr. Ehrlich?
my comment is that I think that the Marina District, or I would question whether or not the Marina District should go more towards Franklin Street. And then the red for the downtown area, whatever that is, possibly maybe that should be more than 4 stories. Because you've got that, it's kind of built into that hill there, and that hill is, definitely is not going to impede on views near as much going to a 5 stories or something like that. Just a thought. But it seems to me that I don't think on Franklin you should be doing, I don't think you should be doing 4 stories possibly.
Yeah, and this is, a discussion item, so it can, it can be a little more freewheeling here. So, Chad?
Yeah, I would agree. At a minimum, I would call it the Java Dock building should be included in the Marina District. At a minimum, those buildings that are right on the marina should be included. But I agree, probably should go all the way to Franklin Street.
You mean
Not Java Dock, excuse me, the
I was like, you just.
Dockside Deli?
Dockside Deli, thank you.
Yeah.
Dockside Deli building there should be included because they're right on the water.
I have question or concern, because it came up when I was first on council, that recently the properties came up for sale at the base of St. Mary's Hill on Wisconsin. I think that, I forgot the gentleman's name, he used to run the gas station years ago, DB. That there was an argument about years ago when there was other properties interested, how high somebody could go, because St. Mary's got really concerned with that. Do we include that in the area?
You mean going up?
Going up the-
Clarifying, up the hill?
Up the hill on the right, because who knows what those two properties are going to become. I'm just curious. St. Mary's doesn't own the view, but
No, but that view is, the view looking up Franklin is pretty iconic, and
I agree. That's why I'm just concerned as we're setting heights here. Is it something we should be looking at as a layperson? I defer to the architects and such.
Oh, never, no.
curse you.
Kyle?
Bob, that area north of Jackson, that is currently not in the B4 zoning district, correct?
Yeah, Jackson Street is the cutoff between
Yeah.
B4 downtown zoning, which is on the south, and then up above here, it is, this is all CCM.
And in order to have, oh boy, would it be an overlay plan district that we would have that would be able to have a foot in both canoes of zoning areas? in
Yeah, that
order-
would be the route to take. I don't know if it'd be a complete overlay in-place district, or it's just what we have now, where if a particular project comes in that wants to put both feet in two canoes, then you would use it as a plan development.
Yeah, okay.
So, I mean, Mr. Harris, what you're looking for us tonight, right? So we're now talking about beyond the downtown area. But in general, I mean, is the commission, as Bob builds his plan out, comfortable with the idea of that phasing from east to west with height variances in zones?
Yeah. And not necessarily the lines I have here, but just the general idea and the feedback you've given me, that will guide me.
I like the idea of making sure that the east side is lower than the west side. I agree. I would move the Marina District a little bit west, at least to include everything that is on the water at a minimum.
And one reason I particularly want to point this out is if you've seen the boards that were at the community workshop last week, one project is, taking the Dockside Deli, and there were some architectural drawings of what a redeveloped Dockside Deli building could be, along with, and then that adjoining former Piggly Wiggly vacant site, and that's, one of the alternatives is showing a 4-story building. And so I think it's, I want to pick the commission's brain on their thoughts on, is 4 stories appropriate there?
I think maybe in lieu of using streets as the boundaries, we could use streets with properties on either side of it as sort of the zones. So therefore, the rear property line, therefore, the rear property line becomes that defining boundary. And I know it zigzags for a lot of properties, but therefore we could have a Marina District, we could have a Franklin Street District, we could have sort of everything west of Franklin Street, but north of Grand. Grand would have its own district, properties north and south of Grand Ave. It seemed, and then that would be applicable as well for Jackson Street. So properties on the north and south side of Jackson Street would be in that range as well. That way, those view corridors, which are typically framed by the center axis being a street, are framed uniformly or not to exceed what is already there. I feel like might be a better way. The other part that I did not see in any of the language you had, Bob, I do agree on defining it by stories, but I would also put a not to exceed height number in there. And that height number would be, and we talked about it in the last meeting, where somebody can use 2 stories to get to 45 feet, somebody can use 3 stories.
I'm glad you brought that up. You answered the one question I had remaining that I was going to pose, so thank you for that.
Happy to offer a segue with
Yeah.
that. The other item would be bullet point number 3. You've got decorative architectural features, parenthetically, such as corner elements, can be exempted up to 6 feet. I actually kind of feel like striking the 6 feet from that, because we might end up with the same issue we have with 15-foot high garages, that we're forcing a roof slope that isn't necessarily there. And when you look at many of the architectural turrets that we have in town, 6 feet would just look really rather squat, and it would look like a really poor hat and not appropriate.
Got it.
So are you suggesting then it's higher or just not there?
Yeah.
And then over time? Okay.
And-
Because I was
and
like, we
that
would have
would
never
be-
had the Nutcracker if you'd.
That would be a very apropos reason for a special exception.
Yep.
So Bob, we're not adopting this or anything? but
No,
like-
this is-
So you're hearing clearly
This
that.
is, this is essentially a stakeholder interview with the Plan Commission. So we're not adopting anything. This is,
No,
the this is the guidance I've asked for.
I agree with Kyle. That's a good, that's smart. I mean, if somebody's going to put a tower there.
Give them incentive to do it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's some neat developments going on around the state where they're imitating the older parts, like what they're doing up in West Kohler now,
Okay.
rebuilding the older homes. It's pretty neat.
So
Eric, did you have something?
Just one other question. It hits on bullets 1 through 3. If somebody does want to put equipment up on the roof, is that from now on going to have to be shielded from view by something?
that's been the desire of the commission from the last meeting. So I anticipate some type of language. And just coincidentally enough, I was doing a follow-up meeting with Grafe just yesterday. And they've been paying attention to the conversations we've been having. And so they'll probably have give me some suggestions and some languages that they've worked on in this issue with other communities.
And Bob, are you going to ask, I'm sorry, Eric, did you have anything? Are we going to ask that as we're redoing the code, that it's just put into code so it doesn't have, masked mechanicals should just be an expectation for development downtown. Nobody should be able to put a, big train box on top without it being hit.
I envision that, yes.
Yeah. Because I don't think that's something we should be we should be discussing on a regular basis.
The idea is just come up with a tighter code that avoids those little
Correct.
discussions that we've had in the last couple of years.
And, yeah, and I think the other part to that, and it's sort of implicit with how we've got it called out with rooftop projections, but I do, I would say a more disciplined approach when applicants are submitting to be providing the mechanical equipment as well as part of that, because that is part of the building and it is projecting up, and for them to come and present and say, yeah, we've got some air handling units up there. Well, how big are they? They're probably 4 feet. That's not going to be acceptable. We should not have that acceptable. They need to have that, and that needs to be compliant with what we're talking about relative to full heights.
And that's not that difficult to figure out
Oh, no.
early on,
Other communities do that.
right?
Yeah.
So one question, I just want to make sure we understand that essentially right now, the way the code reads is that anything above 35 feet, we as a plan commission have kind of a lot more say in the buildings and the architecture of the buildings. Whereas this now, these things are allowing by right to go to, those other heights. And so I just want to make sure that we all understand that we may be giving up a little bit of the kick at the cat with some of that.
Which, I appreciate that clarification. I think we'd all like to just have Bob have more defined lanes of, what he can and can't do.
Right.
Instead of it continually coming back, having the discussions, kicking back and forth. I think we're lagging as a community as we don't have these very clearly defined codes and ordinances to guide us. And that's, I think it'll be more engaging for us as a commission, because what will come to us now will be true exemptions instead of, can I please go 36 and a half feet?
Right.
You know, and we've got council members who regularly vote against things just because they don't like the way the code is written. So the code and everything will be adjusted.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Did you gesture?
Towards you? Is that what you wanted?
No. Bob, and to Commissioner Ehrlich's point, anything presented in the B4 zoning district does have to provide a building site and operations plan by review in this committee as well, correct? So even if they are within the boundaries of what we codify, we still do get a review of that, I believe.
Oh, every new building, yes, or
So
addition.
Okay.
there would be that opportunity.
There's that opportunity.
Right, we're just buttoning it up so it is less vague. You know, just making it much more,
And we'll also be reviewing the ordinances, I'm assuming, as we're recodifying the code, and it goes up the chain, because we will look at the ordinances that impact our board or our commission.
Correct. And the other way to look at this is, just, we're not confirming anything, just based on the discussion, I think eventually, be it through the plan or the zoning code, one way or the other, I think the downtown heights the max heights coming down just based on these discussions that we're having. I think maybe there'll probably be a bit more above 35 to accommodate, to avoid the 36 and a half foot parapet or stack. But at the same time, where this is headed right now, it looks like, 61 max is coming down.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need Titus at every meeting. All right, any other questions for Bob or input, ideas? Otherwise, I'd ask if on your ride home something pops up, if you could just email him any more feedback, that'll be great. Okay, I'm going to move into forthcoming events. I actually have a couple things that I needed to start out the meeting with. Chad, so if you wouldn't mind, I know you introduced yourself, but I just wanted to welcome you to the commission. Chad is somebody who kind of applied through the help wanted section, and a lot of people had asked about stepping on the planning commission, but I picked Chad for his engineering background and legacy here in Port Washington. Could you just tell us a little bit about what you do professionally and how long you've lived in Port, where you live, what you do?
Sure. So I live on Walter Street, West Walter Street. Actually, I think 2 blocks from where the mayor grew up.
Correct.
So I've been in Port Washington now for 19 years. Went to school at MSOE, degree in architectural engineering with an emphasis on structural. Been working for a company called Altair Engineering for 20 some years now, where I've done everything from help design buildings to automotive to medical devices and things of that nature. Kind of more on the mechanical engineering side. So happy to be here and looking forward to working with everybody.
Yeah, welcome. And again, I appreciate all the different people who applied. And as we move forward, we're going to continue to just publicly announce that and then try to engage more people in the community and get more diverse ideas and thoughts. And I think the man to your right is very excited to have another engineer on the board. So
Never
it
had
is-
too many
the
engineers.
score is now 2-2 with 3 laymen, 2 architects, 2 engineers. The other thing I wanted to do was just briefly kind of debrief on some things that happened over the last couple of months, and just ask that as commissioner members, as we move forward, we have 3 kind of obligations as commission members, and the first is to adhere to state and federal laws. The second level is for us to adhere to our local laws and policy and ordinances, and the third is ethics. And I'm just going to ask, as long as I'm mayor and I'm chairing this commission, that if we have anything personal that comes to the planning commission in any way at all, that we just kind of step off this platform, step into the audience, and then say I'm going to address this as a public member. If there's ordinances that impact us, the conflict of interest laws are pretty clear that you have to step away from things that you have a financial interest in. But I'm gonna speak to the ethical part. So as we move forward, if there's a variance needed and down the road it could potentially benefit you, I just don't want any clouds or fog as to what we do up here. So just as we move forward, if you feel like, hey, what's this, or is this something that would potentially impact me personally, just run it past me and we'll have the conversation of whether or not, because otherwise I'll call it out and say, like, I'd ask that we don't put ourselves in that position where there's any questions of the integrity of the commission as we move forward here. Okay? So with that, forthcoming events, Eric, you got anything exciting going on?
Not right now.
No? Rob? Soccer, baseball, soccer?
All of the above.
All right. Paul, again, thank you for helping me out. Any other commissioners have any other pieces? Okay. With that, then, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there, I forgot, yeah. Feels good to
Roll
win
is
the
the
race every
second.
time, right? Is there a second?
A second?
Second? Okay. Chad, you're in the minutes. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Titus, can you come back up here again? You want to take a picture of Titus whacking away here? Titus Smith, raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I will
I will
end this
end this
meeting.
meeting.
Say adjourned and smash that gavel.
Adjourned.
Well done, buddy.
Titus, are you in high school? You're a pretty big guy.